This is SciByte, episode 66, for October 9th, 2012. Hi everyone, and welcome to SciByte, Jupiter Broadcasting's weekly science podcast. Fresh for download every Wednesday morning and live Tuesday nights at jblive.tv. My name is Chris, and joining us every week is our host, Heather. Hey there, Heather.
Hey there, Chris.
Hey, Heather. Happy science to you.
Happy science.
All right, so what are we talking about this week?
Today, we're going to take a look at the Red Bull Stratos updates, an apple a day, new GPS satellites, a space station mission, Endeavours' final leg of its journey, warp drive, SpaceX and Curiosity updates, and as always, take a peek back into history and up in the sky this week.
Awesome. I know folks are looking forward to it. We've been getting tweets from folks throughout the week about various topics.
Yes.
Tons of stuff to cover this week. So why don't we get into the news? All right, with that dramatic jingle now out of the way, what is our first news story?
The Red Bull Stratos mission. This is the crazy Felix Baumgartner who is going to jump like 22 miles from the sky, free fall for 5.5 minutes, and then open his parachute,
Right, we've talked about this a few times, and even how it's kind of weird that it's Red Bull, but it's an interesting marketing thing. Yeah.
Well, it's come up a few times, and yesterday was the target launch date.
Right.
It got delayed due to weather, wind. Today, they had some more iffy weather. Then it kind of settled out. Then they had some radio problems. They have inside the module, there are two radio systems, the primary and the backup, and one of them wasn't working. So you need both to go up. So they waited, and by the time they had all that figured out, then the weather kind of calmed down again. So they brought the balloon out. They were starting to inflate it, and then the wind picked up again. And that was sad. It was very sad beans, yes. I mean, the winds have to be less than 2 miles an hour, all the way up to 800 feet.
Is that ever going to happen? Oh, that's the dramatic video I was playing.
Yeah. No, it will happen. You just have to wait. Early mornings are generally the best, where it's very calm, low winds. The FAA has certain rules about what kind of visibility you kind of have. They want the atmosphere to be cool enough so that maybe it'll increase its chances of breaking the sound barrier. So there's a lot of things going on. But this morning I was watching the live cast, and you see the balloon was just perfectly straight up, and it was very calm. And I tabbed away and I was working, and then popped back in, and I saw it starting to blow around a little bit, and I was like, uh-oh. And then if you check out the video, there's this huge gust where he's like, oh no, there's a gust of wind, and just kind of blobs everywhere. It kind of touches the ground. And at that moment, I was like, nope, bye.
Wow. So is this something they're just going to keep trying over and over again? Or is there a window where they'll just be like, all right, we're calling it. We're good.
Well, they've got these balloons are huge. This thing, uninflated. All the strips of plastic that put it together would cover about 40 acres. Uninflated, it's almost 600 feet long.
Wow.
So, and I've dealt with these things on a much smaller basis. To me, they were pretty huge anyway. But they are custom made. Everyone has to be custom made. And so none have been made this big before.
Sure. And
so they had two. And once you unbox it, that's it. You unbox it, you start laying it out, that's it. That balloon can never be used again. End of story. They have one more.
Oh.
So the weather for the next couple of days is looking kind of iffy, but they're hoping that it'll settle out, but they're going to wait till the absolutely most perfect conditions that they can imagine. But yeah, I remember watching it, and I saw that balloon bouncing around, and I was like, oh no. I've dealt with these before. You can't even touch them. You have to hold them with cloth gloves.
Wow.
Because they're so thin, it's the oil from your hand will affect the plastic as it goes up through the atmosphere. And this thing's going to go 120,000 feet.
Mm-hmm.
So way up there, they're just so thin. I mean, there was it 0.0008 of an inch. And it's funny because, I mean, so they've had a couple of delays now. So hopefully, I mean, they're saying, yeah, we love tomorrow, but weather's not so happy. In fact, the next couple of days are not so happy. But they just have to wait it out. And since they only have one more balloon, they've probably put another one in on order.
Oh, okay. But they probably aren't.
They're going to wait until everything is so absolutely sure that they can get. And
wow.
So, I mean, if they lose the next one, then they have to wait until the other one's made. And it takes a little while to make those.
Right. Yeah, I would imagine so. I would imagine it's probably a very special manufacturing process.
Oh, yeah.
And they must be expensive, too.
Yeah.
Well, good luck to them. So they've got one more in the kitty. So they got one more.
They have one more ready to go. So they're going to wait. And, I mean, it's kind of hard. You're stuck in a situation where it takes like 8 hours. Once you start unboxing it, then you have to lay it out.
And the weather can change in that time. Big
time.
Yes. Yeah.
So they have to wait, unfurl it all the whole time, being very careful. You have to clear the entire runway. You have to make sure that you have, a tarp or something laid out. You lay that on top of it. You're trying to make sure it's all straight with cloth gloves and making sure where you step and what touches it. And then you start to fill it. If you watch the videos, you might see little long tubes, almost like yard creature arms.
Mm-hmm.
And what that is those are fill tubes. So you start filling the hydrogen up through that. You can't just plug it in the bottom.
Oh.
You have tubes that you hold way off to the side of the balloon.
I see.
So that can be used to fill it. And then once it gets to, and you don't fill it all the way, it only gets to a certain amount. And by the time it gets up to 120,000 feet, then it's ginormously bigger as it's, inflated. And then those tubes then act as overfill ballast. So if it starts overfilling, it's not going to pop the balloon. The helium can escape through those.
Well, I agree with the chat room. I think this is a clear indicator why Red Bull costs so much money. I don't know if you've noticed, but it's one of the most expensive energy drinks out there.
Yeah.
I think we know why.
Probably it.
Yeah, I think we know why.
Yeah. A couple people from the chat room deciding whether he's crazy or he will actually survive. This dude is crazy.
Yeah.
He has done, anybody who does base jumping is crazy.
I don't have any personal experience with that, but I think that's because I'm not crazy.
Yeah, one of my ex-coworkers used to base jump. He did skydiving, and then he did base jumping, and then he met his wife, whom he then married, and then he spent many years trying to beg her to just plain parachute. Because, well, at that point he said, I'm not going to base jump again because I'm responsible for more than just me. He would show us videos. We'd be like, hey, watch this. This is really cool. Oh, that dude died. Oh, yeah, like two times later, this guy died.
Oh.
And we're all like, dude. Like, his best story was this guy broke his leg in the bottom of a ravine. And because they were breaking the law doing it, his buddies had to climb out and then just, like, bring him down water every once in a while as he, like, came up out of the ravine.
That's just not my bag, Heather. My bag is sitting here behind a microphone being judgy. That's more my thing.
Yeah, I like that too. I like the sitting and looking and the reporting of the crazy science.
Right.
And sometimes being involved and trying to avoid the small explosions at work. But
oh, well, sure.
Yeah, But yeah, if you saw like the video as they were like calling it, you could see this guy's face. He'd been, woken up at 2 a.m. He'd gotten all suited up in the literal almost spacesuit because the atmosphere is so thin up there, your blood would actually boil.
He's got to be just super amped up every time.
Oh, incredibly. So you could just see him. He was like looking on his face. It was like, okay, don't tell me. Okay, that's not funny. No, oh, I can't do this. And even his family, like the first time they've ever come like out of their country, Austria, they were like here outside you could see his mom like step outside the control room. She's like, oh. So
wow.
He's definitely amped up and kind of a downer for him. The Capcom for NASA, the person that all the astronauts talk to is someone else, another astronaut that has flown, and that's the person they talk to. This guy, his Capcom, was the last winner. 50 years ago, he broke the skydiving limit.
And for Baumgartner, this has been an ordeal too, because he was awakened at 2.
But
here's Kittinger.
Keep it coming when you can.
Kittinger.
That was just a clip of him, basically giving him the bad news.
Yeah, you see, like, Baumgartner is, like, totally amped, so he's, like, very calm, very kind of placid. You could just kind of see the pain in his eyes on occasion. And Kittinger is his name. He's the last person to hold this record. He's in the control room. You can just see him like, oh, man. You could definitely see the frustration on his face.
Yeah. Yeah, it's got to be tense for all those people.
Oh, yes.
And a lot of people are watching. I mean, we obviously had people in the audience watching, and I watched the reaction on. I couldn't watch the actual feed this time, but I was watching the reaction online.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So, yeah, I had my Twitter, and I was able to set my phone alarm, so I was like, oh, let me flip over real quick. Bing! I got to watch a couple minutes, and I was like, oh.
Well, we'll see. Maybe we'll have something different to report in a week or two, huh?
Yeah.
Maybe. Any other thoughts on that?
So, well, we'll just see when the weather holds out and
see what happens.
Yeah.
Well, then let's take a break here. I actually have a couple of exciting things to announce on the show, including a new way to listen to SciByte. So we'll get to all of them. We'll run through them here really quick. First of all, let's go through our old standard, our old standby, my friends, and that is the Jupiter Broadcasting Affiliate System, and of course the direct contribution methods. That's how we stay on the air, is thanks to our fine audience who cares about our independent content and wants to keep us going. We have our affiliate links at the bottom of the website. If you click one of those before you shop, then a portion of your shopping session is automatically contributed to Jupiter Broadcasting. Doesn't impact your shopping session, doesn't alter your budget at all, and this still allows you to contribute to us. I like that system quite a bit, and thanks to popular demand, we've just added eBay. So eBay is now listed there. That's the eBay US store. We will be pushing out an affiliate extension soon that will include eBay and all of the other country versions of eBay as well. So that's great. I know some of you out there are big eBay fans, or you use it occasionally like I do. That's a great way to go. And we appreciate everybody who supports us through these or loads the Chrome or Firefox extension so it just automatically takes care of it for you. You don't even have to worry about the links. But every now and then, when we're doing a pick from our affiliate system, Amazon's our favorite go-to, and Heather's tossed a pick in here this week, Star Wars, The Clone Wars Season 4. Yes,
most definitely.
Now, I've actually heard mixed results about The Clone Wars, but you're kind of changing my mind, because, see, I'd heard it was a little slow, it was a little pokey, but I've also heard that if you stick with it, it does get better. And so the new season just started, right?
Yes, it did. Now, like I said, there's like small story arcs that are a little bit slower, but then there are some just really awesome episodes. It's just like packed full of Star Wars awesomeness.
And I got to imagine, with the type of animation this thing is on, Heather has linked in here the Blu-ray version. This would probably look amazing. Amazing.
Yes.
I would think it would look really good on Blu-ray.
Yeah.
Some of that animation stuff just looks so incredible. And so I peeked at the first episode of this season just to kind of see if it's worth jumping back in. And I got to say, I was pretty impressed with what I saw. It looks like it's really turning into a really interesting Star Wars story.
Yeah.
So, all right, there you go. So, folks, if you buy that or you get that for somebody, a portion of your purchase will be contributed to us. Now, it's not released until the 23rd, so it's your chance to pre-order it right now, so you can go grab it. We'll have a link to that in the show notes. Now, just two more things. One more before we get to the new way to catch SciByte. I want to give a special mention to our buddy Michael from Coder Radio. He makes an application called Code Journal. Now, you might not be a Mac user, but if you know somebody who is a Mac user and they could use a really, really well-done utility that allows you to monitor a GitHub feed, create private and public GIFs, and you think, if you know somebody who uses these types of tools and is on a Mac, or if you're on a Mac, I would really like if you checked out codejournalapp.com. Now, here's why. This is a fine application that Mr. Dominic has talked about, and it's doing fairly well in the Mac App Store. You know, the whole game about developing your own apps now with these app stores is the ranking system, right? And getting reviews and showing up on the list for the utilities. And CodeJournal has been doing fairly well. However, a competitor came out recently that cloned one of his features, and honestly, it's a good feature that he has in here. And it's native to the Mac operating system that Mac heads just absolutely love. It's something it's a part of integrating with the built-in notification center in Mac OS X Mountain Lion, one of the new features. And so it's kind of a hot to trot feature that all the Mac people want to talk about. And so this guy that released a similar application just kind of stuck it in the store, and then he had his buddy bloggers blog about it, and now he's sort of been pumping up the rating systems and knocking Michael's app out of the store, so Michael's losing visibility. So I wanted to give him a plug. I don't know how much of that he's going to share with people. Hopefully I didn't overshare there, but that's the situation. So I just wanted to give him a nice plug. And if you know anybody that needs a good Git client for the Mac, have them go to CodeJournal app or search for CodeJournal in the Mac App Store. It's a great way to keep in touch and get notifications of activity on GitHub. So even if you're not a developer yourself, but you kind of dabble in the GitHub world and you just want to keep tabs on stuff you're keeping an eye on, like our affiliate extensions or our JBot in the chat room, you can use this client that'll keep you up to date on that kind of stuff. And he's always adding updates as well. You can buy it directly from his website or from the App Store, and it is a really nice tool. So there you go. That's codejournalapp.com. And good luck to Mr. Dominic from Coder Radio. Hopefully all that gets sorted out and people keep finding his great application. All right, Heather, now I'm really excited to talk about Stitcher Radio. Now, you're probably not familiar with Stitcher because you're not a smartphone user.
Yeah, I'm not.
Okay. So Stitcher Radio is an app for your smartphone that lets you go to categories like comedy or technology or news, and then you can even get more granular. So you can get like science and science news and things like that, right?
Ooh.
So it's like this way to sort of tune into a station that's really all of a bunch of podcasts that kind of all fit together. So it's you can get like a science station of podcasts. And so now SciByte is listed in Stitcher Radio. So if you go into Stitcher Radio, you can search for SciByte and add it to your radio stations. And there's a bunch of other really great science podcasts in there. And all of our other shows are in there now as well. So you can get any of our shows in Stitcher Radio. So if you, like for example, if you use the Stitcher Radio Tech channel, you can then go and then you can get TechSnap in that channel, or you can go granular and say Tech Linux, and you can get the Linux Action Show in it. It just shows up in the feed along with all the other shows that are sort of similar to our shows. So it's a neat way to find new stuff and also just kind of kick back and sort of treat it like a radio station. So that's Stitcher Radio. It's a free app, and we've had a few requests to get our stuff in there. We had a couple of our shows in there, but now we have each individual show in there. So if you are a Stitcher user, which I think there's a good handful of you out there, go grab it and listen to SciByte in Stitcher now. Yay! And give us a review, too, because that helps other people find SciByte in the app stores. It's not an app store. It's just a directory listing. Yeah. But if you give us a review or a thumbs up, it helps people find us. So
let them know there's happy science.
All right, Heather, what do you say we do the news bite? What is the news bite today?
An apple a day keeps the doctor away. Even more reasons that is true. Literally.
Now, I've heard this, but I always just kind of thought this was an old wives' tale.
Well, the old wives are sometimes right.
That's true.
So they have found, through a study, they said that eating an apple a day for 4 weeks lowered the levels of the substance leading this linked to hardening the arteries by 40%.
Really?
Yes. So it seems to lower the LDL, the bad cholesterol levels.
Okay.
And those are more likely to promote inflammation, can cause tissue damage. And so it looks like the apples are the apples are oxidizing against the LDL.
Huh.
Now, they thought that it was from these polyphenols, which they extracted out of the apples. And they're like, okay, now we have this polyphenol antioxidant. And then they had a study where it was this group eat apple, this group eats, the polyphenol pills, and this group will have a placebo. And the extracted polyphenols did have an effect, but nowhere near as strong as the apples themselves did.
Isn't that interesting how sometimes when we extract stuff, it does not have the same level of potency as it does naturally in the originating source?
Yeah, they don't know whether it's because there are some other compounds sort of combining to aid in the absorption.
Yeah, it's interesting. They took it out and they put it into these capsules and had these people eat the capsules of it.
Yeah, so it comes down to the apple either helps the overall effect or the overall absorption, but it is just the apple themselves that is doing so much better. Now, as always, you have to note the study is being funded by the Apple Industrial Group, not like the Apple computer, but the Apple like Munch Yum. So, but there are many ways that apples are good, and they've actually shown that the antioxidants in saliva and combined with the apples has significant implications for dental health. So it increases your your dental health as well.
Well, that's not so bad, is it?
Yeah.
So an apple a day keeps the doctor away and the dentist.
Yes.
And if you bring one to the teacher, you're supposed to get better grades, right? Isn't that how that works? Gosh.
I guess. You'll improve her health, so maybe you'll get, a bonus on the curve there.
Right. Wow.
She won't,
And the apple fell on Newton's head. Which,
not quite, but sure.
Well, okay, maybe not. You know what? Maybe I should just take us to the 2-Byte News.
Okay.
The 2-Byte News!
2-Byte News.
The 2-Byte News.
On SciByte.
I kind of want to get as Christmas gets closer, I kind of want to get little jingle bells in here and stuff like that to add a little extra flair to the jingles.
Because we need more flary jingles.
Yes, of course.
That's what Christmas. That's what Chris wants for Christmas.
Right.
Just so y'all know.
You know what these jingles are? Not outrageous enough. They need more.
Yes.
All right. So what are we talking about in the 2-Byte News?
All right. There's a new GPS satellite system going up.
Okay.
Recently, a Delta IV rocket launched on the 4th, sending the next generation GPS satellite into orbit.
Next generation? How so?
Yeah. Well, this is going to be replacing the current GPS system is about 19 years old. And it's made of 31 operating satellites, which on orbit on a broadcasting position. But the new one will actually be able to be used by civilians and military both. This is actually the third of 12 that are planning to launch. They're going to improve overall GPS signals. They're going to have anti-jamming technology, more precise atomic clocks, upgraded civilian channels for aviation, onboard processors that they can sort of reprogram on the fly. And this one should be available starting in November.
Oh, okay. So it takes a little while to get. I guess that's not that long, really.
Yeah, I mean, it's...
Unfortunately, it's sooner than I'd like to admit.
Yeah, no, you say November? Oh, wait.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. Huh.
So will I, as an end user, see this, or is this going to require, will it require new hardware on the ground to take advantage of it?
I'm not entirely sure. My guess would be no.
Okay.
It's at the start. At the worst case scenario I'd see is that it would require new equipment that the military would get first, and then it would trickle down to civilian use.
Right.
But this is a system that is going to be for both. So I think it'll just overall increase the accuracy levels.
Well, and it's interesting too because the consumer market has sort of begun building its own solution to the accuracy issues. So, on smartphones, they use GPS. They use a GPS, assisted GPS. So it's GPS in combination with cell phone triangulation, in combination with Wi-Fi access point identification, and then that's how they identify where you're at. And so in some cases they can get as accurate to where you are in a house. Yeah.
Well, I've heard those stories where you're like, phone, where's the movie section? And I take you to the movie section in a store. It's I don't know whether that was real or what, but I was like, that is creepy.
Well, they're going to work on it, even if it's not real yet.
Yeah.
It's coming.
Yeah.
All right. Well, cool. So maybe pretty soon you combine that with some good new mapping technology, and we're set. We're going to be accurate as can be.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. What's next?
All right. We've got a new space station mission project. So October the 5th, NASA and some of the international partners of the space station announced an agreement to send 2 crew members to the International Space Station on a 1-year mission. Now, right now, they all do 6-month tours.
Oh, okay.
This wouldn't be the first time there's a year-long tour. The Russians did it in Mir, way back before the International Space Station.
Yeah, they're hardcore.
So, but they are starting to talk about doing year-long missions now. This one particular they're agreeing upon won't start until the spring of 2015. But
how do I get in on this? Like if I just wanted to SciByte up there or something.
Yeah, sure. We'll launch something that makes us $1 kajillion billion, and then we can pay to buy a seat.
Actually,
they may let us stay.
Didn't I just read that some actress or actor or singer outbid NASA on one of the Russian flights, and so NASA didn't get a ride? What was that story? Did you see that?
I didn't read that, but it wouldn't be surprised me.
So maybe I could do that. I could outbid.
There you go.
We just need to get like a Kickstarter project going, and then we'll have like a whole week of shows from space.
There you go.
Yeah. I'm sure we'll get right on that.
That'll go right through.
Yeah.
I'm sure of it.
So what are they going to do with a year? Is it more like projects that they can start working on? They can finish, or is a year more like just to see what happens to the human body kind of thing?
Yeah, that's more what it is. It's totally designed to get the scientific data. Their idea is we're going to go farther than orbit or the moon. Then if we go to Mars, the appropriate mission to make it worth going there would take a while. You're going to be there for over a year. So let's see what happens to your bones and your muscles if you stay in orbit for a year. So they'll be able to get this data and they'll kind of say, well, if it works, they're even considering making it on a permanent basis.
Interesting. Well, you got to get that data because we got to get to Mars. That's a priority.
Yes.
That is a priority. Well, now this next link looks like something I should bookmark for like a... Oh, it's not that long, actually. It's only a 5-minute video.
Yeah, it's just a short video I wanted to point out. This is a YouTube video of 55 years of space exploration. Essentially took a whole bunch of little clips. I didn't get to watch the whole thing, but clips of everything between 1957 and 2012.
I want to hear it.
Okay.
Oh, that's not what I expected at all.
No, like I said, it's just some random guy. Not worth more than a mention, but it was just kind of a cool visual.
It is a very cool look, isn't it? Lots of gosh, man, have we come far fast.
Yeah.
That does make it does make that sink in. Also makes me want to go into space, so that helps with that too. That helps with that. All right, well, you folks can find that video if that visual tease, let's call it that. If that tease sparked your interest, you can find a link to that video in the show notes. It's called 55 Years of Space Exploration. All right, Heather. Well, that out of the way, let's bust out our spacecraft update.
All right. SpaceX's Dragon spacecraft is up. This is the first of the paid missions for resupply missions.
Right, a private company launched this. Yes.
Yep, they launched and they actually were able to do it back in May. They sort of proof of concept.
Yeah.
And now they're actually on contract. So, they'll go up every once in a while. They actually, had their little mission patch that they were all excited about the size and the shape. And there's, a good luck 4-leaf clover sort of hidden in the earth, in the background of the Earth. It's kind of a ongoing theme for them. Now, the interesting part that moves on to is the launch. Happened on October the 8th, early morning, and everything looked fine, and there was an engine failure. There were 9 engines, and about 79 seconds into the launch, one of them lost pressure. And then because it lost pressure, the computer shut it down.
Oh, is that what that was? Okay.
It did not explode. It did not explode. That was flurrying about, and I actually saw...
Yeah.
Somebody sent in an email asking about that. They continued to receive data from it. So it wasn't that it exploded. It was literally just that an anomaly happened. I'm not quite sure what. They're not going to say quite yet. But
I watched it live. It wasn't in. It was morning depending where you're at. Right, it was like 5:30 my time, p.m.
Yeah.
On Sunday, I think. I watched it, and I remember to me on the video stream, everybody was commenting about they saw a bright flash, and so I think that's why people thought it was an explosion. There
was a flash. Now that's exactly why they thought it was an explosion. What they believe that is a it was debris falling, essentially. There were some protective fairings around the engine. And because of that pressure release, and it got shut off, that essentially dislodged them. And they kind of fell away, and they were able to flare as they got on fire, as they essentially burned up.
Oh, of course. That makes sense.
Yeah. Now, the computer was able to... This happens. It's happened a couple of times on Saturn V rockets. These Saturn V, even, large commercial airliners. They're all made to have redundancy. If one engine goes out, you're still okay. You're not as awesome, but you're still okay.
Okay, good.
Actually, they could have made it to orbit with even if another engine had failed.
Oh, okay.
So the computer just recalculated so the orbit and the burn and their trajectory, so they got into the proper orbit that they were looking for. Unfortunately, they had a piggyback satellite. What has happened is literally kind of how it sounds. You have a major rocket that's going up, and maybe they have, they're able to carry a little extra weight. So somebody will come along and they're like, they don't have the money to make their own complete rocket and launch, but they have it and they can pay you to essentially catch a ride. Orbcom, it's a New Jersey-based company. They're doing global machine-to-machine messaging services. They did this. They had a piggyback. Unfortunately, because the engine failed, it delayed another burn that was going to let it go into its proper orbit.
Oh.
So the orbit it launched into now is much lower than it was intended to. So Orbcom and SpaceX are both kind of working together and talking to the satellite to determine what could be done if possibly they could raise it into a more operational orbit. If it can't, then it will come down much sooner than expected. They will still get a couple months of data, but because the atmosphere is really thin up there, but it's still much thicker at a lower altitude. So you start getting more drag.
No,
and so it only has so much fuel to maintain against that. So now it's having to maintain against much more drag of the atmosphere. So it won't be able to last quite as long. Now, it's not like they're upset about it. They've still got 17 more satellites that they're going to launch with them. They've got a contract that they're going to launch a whole bunch of these on Falcon 9 rockets in the future. So that's going to continue. It's just this one particular instance.
Right.
It happened. They'll obviously SpaceX is going to go back and analyze the data, see what happened, determine what caused it, what the origination of it was, and go through and fix that, just like anything of this nature will happen.
Heads will roll, in other words, right? I mean, somebody will answer for this mistake. Is that what you're saying?
They'll find an answer. I don't know if heads will roll.
Oh. Well, okay.
But on the positive note, on board the Dragon capsule, there is a general laboratory active cryogenic experiment refrigerator, essentially a mini fridge.
Okay.
Glacier.
Wow. Okay.
It's going to keep the temperatures between minus 301 and 39 degrees Fahrenheit.
So this is our big plan to make good relations with aliens, is they find our gadgets in space and we have ice cream in there for them.
There is ice cream.
Really?
I'm dead serious. Now, this is the original. I mean, the main idea is to send up samples up and back because it can come back and splash down in the ocean. They can get frozen samples back. Now, there is a local Texas-based ice cream company, Bluebell Ice Cream. I'm from Texas. I saw this. It is delicious. They have got a couple of these cups of vanilla with chocolate fudge swirl that it's not so secret anymore, but they put those in the fridge because it'll stay frozen by the time it gets to the space station.
And the astronauts get to eat it?
Yes.
Oh, numb. And I guess like, ice cream would probably be one of the safer foods for them, wouldn't it? Because, like, you know, if it floats off into a few pieces, you could just, you know, that's containable. It's not like spaghetti or something like that you send up there and that would just be a disaster.
Yeah. Well, they tried to send up occasional treats for the astronauts. This isn't the first time that this ice cream has flown. It came up on the Atlantis shuttle. I believe it took this Glacier mini fridge up. But this is going to be, you know, the first time that it's unmanned. So it's not dry freezed ice cream. It's like the real thing that you would go to the grocery and buy. My idea is what they should do is they could have, you know, it's in the big freezer section. They should have like a little sticky on the window.
This
flew in space.
This is so
Buy
funny.
me now.
And this shows just how it works, right? Because the device, what'd you call it? The General Laboratory Active Cryogenic ISS Experiment Refrigerator.
Yes. Glacier.
And it's carrying ice cream.
Yes. Well, the main idea is for it to bring down samples.
Oh, sure.
They can take blood and they'll bring down samples and it'll stay frozen and it'll be fine.
It just also happens to carry ice cream frequently.
Well, it don't necessarily carry it frequently, but it is a great idea to offer these. You get special foods and treats for the astronauts if they're up there for 6 months.
Oh, man. Can you imagine how awful? I mean, ice cream like that must be like the most amazing treat. Because otherwise they're just eating paste and stuff, right?
Yeah, well, not quite paste. It's much better than it used to be.
Oh, good.
But still, I mean, they all train in the Houston area. It is a kind of a favorite ice cream of the locals and right where they all train. So, yeah, and I saw ice cream and I was like, awesome. And then I saw the picture and it had like the Blue Bell ice cream box and I was like, oh, how funny. Oh, wait, really?
That's neat. Look at them. Look at them thinking about the astronauts like that.
Yep. So the whole thing's going to arrive on Wednesday. So the day this episode airs, it will be captured. It's going to hang around for 2 to 3 weeks on the space station. Then it'll come back, splash down off the coast of Southern California, and it'll bring back frozen samples and all sorts of other experimental data and trash and various things. That's the big deal about the Dragon is that it's able to bring things down so that we can go and retrieve it.
Right, like, yeah, absolutely.
Like,
I was going to say, like, used ice cream containers, but the chat room's getting grumpy with all the ice cream talk. We're making them hungry. All right, should we talk about the Shuttle Endeavours parade that's coming?
Yes, when we talked a couple weeks back how it got to LAX. Now, it's got a 12-mile, 2-day journey from LAX to the California Science Center. So there's Google Maps that you can find in the show notes if you live in that area to show you exactly the path it's going to take. Now there's a whole bunch of different, of course, the police in the city are like, this is going to be a disaster. Awesome. Right. Please only view in these specific areas at this specific time. We'll see how long that lasts.
Police in the area are thinking overtime, sweet.
We're going to live and breathe shuttle for a little while.
Yeah.
So most of the time it's going to be on a 4 self-powered computer-controlled vehicles. So it's on top of all of these, and they're going to drive it down the road. Now, this has been a very precise, calculated trip.
Right.
They have to find the roads that will be able to handle the weight.
Right.
They're able to handle the wingspan and the total distance of the shuttle. Right. I mean, some of these they're going to have to go very carefully because it's inches of clearance. Now they've said they're going to actually have to temporarily remove and then reinstall power lines, traffic signals, street lights, all these kind of things that they'll take it down. The shuttle will move and it'll pause and then they'll bring back everything up. Now we've talked. A whole bunch of people were upset that they're actually going to have to remove several hundred trees.
Yeah.
Some of them are going to be able to go back. Some of them they're not. The Science Center has already stated they've spent the money that for every tree that's removed, they're going to provide 4 trees of equal or higher quality to be planted in its base, and they've provided 2 years of tree maintenance.
And if you act now, we'll throw in the undercoating.
Well, it's one of the funny things I found about it was there was originally plans for this like Toyota stock truck to tow the shuttle along the last quarter mile to the Science Center. But instead, they don't get that. There is a law that says you cannot have computer-driven transport driven over overpasses. And it has to go over the 405. So they had to move so that the Toyota stock truck tows it across the overpass so that they don't break the law. I'm serious. I'm trying not to laugh.
Wow. You know, there's just so many weird little things that they have to go through. Talk about a process just to move this thing. 12 miles, you said? That's, you know.
Yeah, it's going to take 2 days, and it's going to go 2 miles. This is they drive it, and then I think there's a parking lot it's going to stay at for a little while. They're kind of go and pause. And, you know, we'll see. I remember on Twitter, I probably mentioned this before, that, you know, somebody's like, what is it? The cost for all these flybys, but the flybys, the moving of the trees, you know, all of this is paid for by the California Science Center. So they get the awesome, and if you're in that area, then go check it out.
And they just make the money back on ticket sales?
Probably.
That doesn't seem like that's going to make them. I mean, you know, that's a long time investment, I guess. But you know what? People are going to want to see the shuttles for a long time.
Yeah. We have a space shuttle. Yeah. You have your awesome little science center, whatever. We have a space shuttle.
Right. Yeah.
That's like bragging rights. That's totally come see us.
And that's not like something your competitor's just going to bust out to be competitive with you.
No, they're like, you have a space shuttle. We have the
diagrams. We have a lot of pictures. We took a lot of pictures of the interior, and we have like a slideshow we'll give you. Yeah, I get you. I follow you.
Wow. Linux King from the chat room asked, why don't they remove the wings? It's because it's not quite so much Lego-like that it snapped together. It flew in space. It's literally all combined together and made so that the stressors are spread out enough that they couldn't pop off coming back into the atmosphere. So it's very rigid. You couldn't just take it apart.
If I were doing it, I would fly it and then land in that football field that they have there right next to the place they're taking it to. Solve the problem.
One of the articles I read was titled "How to Steal a Space Shuttle If You Were a Super Evil Spy."
I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like you could go through and just kind of hover. I only got so far and I laughed. I couldn't finish it.
Were they being serious?
No.
Okay, good. Okay, good.
They're like, if you were a supervillain, like in the cartoons.
It is the stuff movies are made of. You could just swoop down, clamp down. Although, if there was an airplane that was strong enough to carry this thing, don't you think they would just do it that way?
But
if you're a supervillain, then you probably...
if you're a supervillain, then you can do whatever you want.
Probably rocket-powered and stuff. Yeah.
You have hovering, super strong, crazy airplanes, and they belong nowhere in science.
All right, Heather, I've got a flashing light here on the SciByte computer. I should probably punch this thing up here. Let me see what I...
All right.
Oh, look at that. We have incoming communications. All right. So we have an email?
We have sort of.
Smoke signals? What?
Smoke signals. We were talking about the warp drive last week.
Yeah.
And then it came out, and you're like, hey, does this use dilithium crystals?
Right. I was just joking. I was just kidding.
Like, oh, I doubt it. I don't know. And then it turned out I got a tweet and a couple of messages like, by the way, dilithium crystals.
This can't be real. This cannot be real. This is not happening. This is not happening. We do not, there's not a thing is, no.
So they're actually saying basically dilithium crystals, and you can't see my quotation marks in the air. It's deuterium, which is...
Oh, no.
Yes, it is a stable isotope of hydrogen, and then Li6. It's the stable isotope of lithium. So
they really call it deuterium, huh?
Yeah, they're like, it's deuterium and lithium in a crystal structure. So they're kind of bringing it together and saying it. Well, you could call it dilithium crystals.
So deuterium is key in the impulse engines in Star Trek.
Yes,
they
and
use
this
the
is
deuterium reserves for that.
Yeah, this is looking at how to do that kind of thing, how to make it. Now that's one of the questions. There's a couple of different steps here going on. Its sponsors are from the military, so everything from this, the military gets first dibs. for use in nuclear testing equipment or what have you. And then you have to go through and say, okay, how do you harness the fusion energy? How do you turn that energy into thrust for an engine? And then any craft that uses that would have to be assembled in space. And so kind of there's quite a few different steps between Chris giggling and Glee saying dilithium crystals and warp drive.
Dilithium crystals, oh my.
Yes.
Wow.
So now the scientists involved are thinking that they're going to maybe have a system be reality by 2030.
Well, I mean, if we get something that uses dilithium or deuterium by 2030 and it's somewhat like an impulse drive, I'm okay with that. I can wait till 2030 for that.
Yeah, I mean, the big deal about this is this fusion impulse engine. So it is actually an impulse type engine.
Yeah.
It'll knock the travel time to Mars from 6 months to 6 weeks. So it's going to make space travel longer distance so much more reasonable and in touch.
Wow.
Now, there are actually non-military, non-space uses for this. So it's kind of quite a few different things going on. So we'll see where it goes, but it is definitely a smiley face that everyone saw, and they're like, wait, warp drive and dilithium crystals, how could you not lose?
Yeah, and you know what? Good for the science. That's what I say. Yeah. Good for them, because maybe they'll just keep, maybe them doing these kinds of things and naming them after these Star Trek things will just keep Star Trek alive forever.
Yeah. Now, like, the first thing I thought of is some scientist at some point had to say, okay, just for kicks and giggles.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We need to put this on the list because it'll just be hilarious.
Yeah, yeah.
And then something came of it, and they're like, oh my gosh, test this again. Test this like 4 more times before we come out with this because no one's going to believe us.
Love it. All right, Heather. All right. Can I play our very special Curiosity jingle?
Yes, you can.
And liftoff of the Atlas V with Curiosity.
Touchdown confirmed. We're safe on Mars.
Wheel! Woo!
Now, I've heard there's quite a bit going on up there on the planet this month, or this week.
Yes, there is. They're getting to the scooping process. So they have their little scoop out, and so it's not just like you reach out and you scoop. It's, well, you reach out and you scoop, and then you push that away, and then you have another scoop and you put that away.
Oh, okay.
And then on the third scoop, then you actually start observing with the camera, and a portion of that gets delivered to chemistry. Now, you wait for that because it's quality assurance. You do similar things on Earth. So it's essentially to avoid contamination. It's like, so you add your sand to a cup or your liquid to a cup, then you pour it out. You do it again, and you pour it out. And so what it's doing is removing anything else that was there.
Huh.
So if they go to take another sample, they'll know this is not contaminated by the one 20 feet back.
Right, okay.
So then they have and say, like, okay, now the third sample, they look at mineral identifying chemistry, and the fourth, then they'll take a fourth scoop that'll go to the sample analysis instrument, so analyzing chemical ingredients. So on the October 7th, they actually start taking its first scoop. So they took it up, they had the powdering material, they shook it a little bit, and that's to kind of give them, to flatten it out, give them an idea of kind of the particle distribution. In order to get a better idea, they had this little dune, essentially, that they saw. They kind of wanted to get an idea of how dense it was, so they rolled forward and then back. So they kind of left it an indent of their wheel. So from that, they're able to say, okay, this is the kind of particle distribution that's there. They can kind of get a basic idea from just that. So then they went in and they took their first scoop. And when they were analyzing the picture from the scoop, somebody actually saw a bright object.
What?
On the ground.
No.
Yes, very serious. So they saw that and everything halts immediately. They're like, okay, nobody move, nobody panic. So you can see the pictures in the show notes are on the enhanced audio. So it's not really that big. It was very tiny, but they had to stop because what if it was from the arm?
Oh, damage.
Yeah, what if there was damage? You don't want to move anything until you know exactly what's going on.
Oh, I was immediately thinking like an alien dropped some change or something.
No, that wasn't their first idea. They were thinking damage. Their first ideas were damage to the rover or possibly debris from when they came down.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Was it Spirit or Opportunity? One of them actually were able to drive past their shell, the back shell that brought them down and protected them from all the heat from the atmosphere.
Right, that thing did kind of like jettison it and take off. So I mean, maybe it dropped something as it took off.
Yeah, so it came with a whole bunch of different pieces that were coming down and separation. So maybe this was something from that. But now it looks like it's probably just a shred of plastic. Very, very benign. They're still holding off on taking any more scoops or doing much else with the arm until they have a much better idea or they're more sure.
But we don't know what a shred of plastic from?
Most likely from the rover. Is something happened. Maybe there was a loose piece that finally got knocked free, or that the fact that they reached out and started doing this scoop, this is a new motion, maybe that dislodged something. But for now, kind of everything is on hold. They only took the one scoop. They haven't gone through all the various 4-scoop process. So they're kind of on hold until they have a better idea.
Wow.
Like, okay, let's make sure that we don't break anything. And then they're going to have to sit and decide, okay, do they want to take samples in this area? Essentially, did it contaminate it? Is it worthwhile to do it? Now, they might take something just to test out the hardware if they want. But it might be such that this site is awash because this particle essentially says, okay, this area is contaminated. What we take here isn't going to tell us much, or we can't trust everything enough.
Wow.
So we'll see how things go. And I mean, I'm pretty absolutely sure that I'm not going to say that. I'm pretty sure that everything on the arm is going to be fine and they're going to be able to move forward. So this is random little bit that this is a reason why you analyze the pictures, why things take so slow. Because you start doing something and then you look at everything that's going on. You're like, okay, what does the data say? What do the pictures say? Oh, wait, that's something that is not expected. Let's pause and check that out.
That, or it's a giant government conspiracy to cover up the bases that we already have established on Mars as part of the Cold War. What do you think?
This is the Martian version of See a Penny, Pick It Up?
I don't know. Maybe. You know what? I don't think that's probably the case at all. Now that I think about it, we're too busy spending all our time on the moon bases. So with that said, why don't we jump in our handy dandy science time machine? Whoop, up, there we go.
See, I really do like the improvements you made last week.
Thank you. Jeez. I tell you what, every now and then that button, it shocks me. There's a lot of energy that goes to that flux capacitor, Heather. But don't you like the new seats? Huh?
I do.
Thank
Much
you.
better.
Now, our destination this week takes us to 166 years ago. October 10th.
Oh, yeah.
1846. All right, Heather, what happened this week in science?
Neptune's moon, Triton, was discovered. William Lassell, he was observing the planet itself hadn't been discovered all that long before. He was trying to confirm his observations of, with the previous week that Neptune had a ring. He was trying to locate Neptune's ring. And instead, he found a moon. So
that's not a bad find.
He actually did prove that a ring was there, and it was a product of his telescope distortion. He saw some distortion and said that to me, that indicates a ring. So he did prove that, but he also found the moon. The first picture of which was taken in 1989. Voyager 2 is able to pass by it. Has a thin atmosphere even. Probably, it looked like it had ice volcanoes. It has a really peculiar orbit and spin. It's retrograde, so it goes, everything kind of orbits in the same direction. Counterclockwise or clockwise, depending on which direction you're looking at the solar system. Everything tends to rotate in the same way. All the moons, all the all the planets. Now, Triton seems to orbit in the opposite direction. Now, what that likely means is that it's some Kuiper Belt object, or essentially
The Rebel.
Yeah, it's a rebel that Neptune captured. It was trying to chill out without a cause and cruise the dusty highways, and Neptune snagged it.
Well, good. It might have smashed right into us if it hadn't. You just never know, Heather. You just never know.
There you go.
Well, very cool. So that is looking back this week, which must mean it's time to look up into the sky.
That's right. October the 11th. First light, the moon is going to be in the east, and Venus is going to be just to the left of it. On the whole, this week, Venus is going to be up about 2 hours before dawn. It'll rise in the east, getting higher and higher in the east by morning, then kind of be washed out by the sun as it rises. Mars is going to be in the twilight. It's going to be pretty low in the southwest skies. It'll be to the right of the Orange Star and Teres.
Ooh, okay.
And they're getting closer and closer. So that's kind of I mentioned that because there's two of them, and Mars is going to be to the right because it's the right one is the right planet.
Yeah.
There we go.
What?
So there you go. Jupiter this week, about 9 to 10 p.m. is going to rise in the east to northeast. The orange star Aldebaran is going to be to its right, but that is not Mars, obviously. And then Saturn is starting to disappear. It's now kind of washed out in the sunset. So Saturn's not going to be our friend for a little while.
That was fun while it lasted, though.
Yeah, Saturn was there for a while. Now it's kind of walking into the sunset.
That's what
literally.
Happens. Yep. Quite literally. For a little while, at least.
Yeah, it'll come back.
All right, there you go. Heather, I believe that's the whole show, isn't it?
I believe that's the whole show.
All right, folks. Now, if you'd like to get a hold of us, you can email the show, SciByte at jupiterbroadcasting.com. You can use the contact link at the top of the website, or if it's something concise, like a link or something like that you want to share with Heather, you can find her on Twitter. She is JB_Mars_base.
A lot of underscores.
Yes, but as long as you get to have fun saying it, it's okay. It doesn't matter.
There you go.
I made a good time out of it. And you can find me over there. I am Chris LAS. And thank you, everyone, for tuning to this week's episode of SciByte. And Heather, thank you for a great show.
Thank you.
And I want to remind everybody, you can download these shows Wednesday morning and subscribe to the RSS feeds to get them automatically. That way you don't even have to think about it. It just happens when we have a new episode for you. All right, everyone. Thanks so much for tuning to this week's episode of SciByte. See you right back here next week.